Hello, everyone. It's Lydia from the Global Travel Junkie podcast and YouTube channel. And today I'm here with Chloe Irons. Hi, Chloe.
Hi, Lydia.
It's good to see you. Thanks for being on the show.
Definitely good to be here. Happy to be part of the Global Travel Junkie podcast family.
Yeah, exactly. And since you're such a big global traveler, you're probably going to be back on again. This is not going to be your last visit, I'm sure. So we'll learn more about you when I basically have you introduce yourself. So why don't we just jump on into that part of the podcast? So will you give us just that general overview, even beyond like all the tell the listeners what you've told me before about how you did all that extra travel, because I want them to know who you are, how brave and courageous you are, and how fascinating you are and why you're on the show. So share a little bit about that. Like you can go outside of the topic today and tell us what you've done.
Yeah, sure, definitely. So I have had quite an interest and passion in traveling since I was a little kid. I spent a lot of time at my dad's office, and he had this tremendous map on the wall, probably 16 feet wide by 12 feet tall, of the world. And I remember tracing my finger. I would spend hours at that wall, tracing my finger from Florida, where I lived, to New York and Canada, and then I'd cross the Atlantic and I'd go to Europe and Africa and Asian countries and Australia. And I couldn't wait to be old enough to actually travel. So when I got my first job, one of the first things I did was book an extra week of vacation off. You could buy an extra week of vacation. And I did that so that way I could, start traveling. And I think Hawaii was one of my first trips. And then China shortly after that. I just went as far, as I could from where I live to explore different cultures and foods and experiences.
Yeah. And then tell the audience a little bit about what you did when y'all took that big adventure all over. I love that story.
Mm-hmm. So I lived in London for a while with work. And when I got married, we took a year off. So we said farewell to our jobs.
Yay!
And I know we did it. We talked about it for about 2 years, then we actually did it. And we traveled all around Europe. So we spent 7 months traveling all around Europe. We saw about 22 different countries within Europe. There's quite a lot in Europe, as it turns out. And that was fantastic. And then we parked our RV that we had purchased to do all of that traveling, and we flew to Asia. And then we spent another 5 months traveling through Asia, and we saw about 7 different countries in Asia while we were there, which was also incredible. So I have lots of topics that I can share with the listeners to help them whet their appetite or find the best places for them that they want to travel to.
Yes, I know that. And I'm so glad that I met you. And by the way, I met Chloe through an online networking group, and just reached out to her, and we got to know each other a little better. And I was like, hey, you'd be a great candidate for my podcast. So I love that story, by the way, about the map. Yeah, I hadn't heard that before. And that is so sweet. And I can totally visualize that as a little girl, just running your finger along the different countries. So today I asked Chloe if she would think of a luxury experience that she's been to, because everybody can travel. You can travel anywhere, and I just want to focus on the parts of life that are super unique. Maybe you're just wanting to go to a luxury experience once in your lifetime for a milestone birthday or an anniversary or something. And so I want people to know all the different amazing places that they can choose. And, we all travel normally too. It's not always luxury, but I wanted her to pick one of the places that was a wow experience. And this is the one she picked. So today we're going to talk about Sri Lanka, and she's going to tell us more about her stay, more about the hotel, and a lot of different aspects about visiting this area. So I'm just going to kind of let you talk, and then I'm going to just interject questions as they pop up. This is totally free form. So why don't you just start at the beginning? Like, what's the journey like to get there, and where did you start from?
So we started from Florida, and we flew to New York and spent a little time there. And then we flew to London, Spent a little time there. And from London, you can fly direct to Colombo, which is the capital of Sri Lanka. So we did that. They have other flights that connect.
How far is that from London to?
London to Sri Lanka is about a 12-hour flight.
Oh, that's all? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a good distance, but they have movies and they feed you multiple times.
That's kind of the halfway point, because to get to London, it was like 10 hours, right?
Yeah. So New York to London is about 6 hours.
New York.
Yeah. And then from London to Colombo is about 12 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. So Colombo is the main airport that you fly into, regardless of where you're coming from. Everything comes into Colombo. That's the main airport. That's the main city. And Colombo is where we stayed at the Galle Face Hotel. So from the airport to the hotel was actually about an hour drive. So the airport's a little out of the center of town. And they have an app called Kangaroo app, which is like their equivalent of Uber. So we knew that beforehand, luckily. So we had downloaded that and we were able to we booked the largest vehicle that we could, which looked like a 6-passenger van. But when it showed up, it was more like a 2-person little miniature van. So be aware that if you go, the vehicles are going to be smaller than you think. So book the biggest one that you can to fit you and your luggage into it. Yeah. So we took that, and the scenery is quite lovely as you drive along the highway to get to downtown Colombo. You're passing these beautiful green fields and it's so lush, and there's farmers out tending their crops, and you see the water buffalo and the bison and the cow in the fields as well. And, you know, the bus driver, he was a lovely man, and he was explaining to us the various trees, like the coconut trees and the banana trees and the coffee plantations. So we had a really nice introduction coming into the capital. And then once we got there, we stayed at the Galle Face Hotel, which is the image behind me. And this is one of the original hotels in Sri Lanka. It is like a colonial classic. It's where royalty has stayed, famous people have stayed. They have a lovely wing of the hotel where they show you the late Queen Elizabeth and the late Prince Philip. They stayed there along with other royals from Japan and Yugoslavia. Famous American actors have stayed there. And they also have the very first car that Prince Philip owned is there in the hotel. So you can go and see all of that. It's really interesting. And they have, as you can see behind me, right, it's like these beautiful white columns. And inside the hotel, they have this beautiful open area that surrounds this lovely garden. And then they have a lovely pool, and you eat outside. And there's natural breeze because it's right on the ocean. So it's a really comfortable, pleasant experience to, you know, be outside. And the food that they have is just wonderful. It's all made fresh there every day. And they have this lovely topping that you put on whatever you get. Usually it's called sambal. And it's basically shaved coconut. And then they'll combine it with various things. Like they may combine it with chilies if you like it spicy, or they may combine it with fish paste if you like it a little more savory. And it was just the most delicious thing. I've never had it or experienced it before. And once I discovered it, I put it on everything I ate there.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was lovely.
Yeah. Let me ask you a couple of logistical questions. So for any of us that aren't familiar with Sri Lanka who's listening, do you know what countries it borders, or where a part of Asia is it?
Yeah, so Sri Lanka is a little island. It's like a little teardrop shaped island right off the southeast coast of India.
Okay.
So it's quite literally on the other side of the world, just off of India.
Is it inhabited by Indian people or another culture?
Yeah, so Sri Lankans are different than Indian. Their food is a little different. Their culture is a little different. Their language is different. There's some similarities, but they do consider themselves their own independent country with their own independent culture and food and ethnic background.
And you probably don't know this, but I'm going to ask questions. And if you don't know something, I mean, we didn't plan this interview, so just say I don't know the answer to that. So like how big is it in comparison to anything? And then like, I don't know if you knew that, or and like the population, like what are we talking about as far as you said it's an island. So like when you go to Cozumel or something like that, like you have a perspective of how small the island actually is. So how big or small is this country?
This is a very big island. So this is not a small island at all. So for example, where we only saw a small portion of the country, and we went from Colombo down to Marissa, which, I mean, it took us, it was about a 4-hour drive from point to point. But to put that in perspective, that would be like in America going from Philadelphia to New York, right? So maybe that drive is 80 something miles. It's not really that far as distance goes. But the island is much larger than that. So if you wanted to do a proper tour of Sri Lanka, you can hire a private driver. It's not very expensive. And the drivers we met, some of them, they're very nice and they really enjoy showing people their country. It would take you at least 2 weeks to drive around the highlight spots around the island. So there's a number of places around the coast you would go, and then you would go inland because there's a lot of very lush jungle to see within the interior of the country. So it would take you a good 2 weeks to do a proper tour of the entire island.
Okay. Can I ask you, like, what inspired y'all? Was this before you had already traveled in Southeast Asia or after?
After.
Oh, okay. And like, what made y'all want to pick Sri Lanka? I mean, because it's not necessarily like on the top of people's bucket list, right? Yeah. So I want to introduce Sri Lanka to people, basically.
Definitely. So I want to see every country in the world. So no country is off limits as far as
leave no country left behind.
Yeah, exactly. But this particular country, what had us go this time was we had a friend getting married out there.
Okay.
So that's what brought us out there. It is quite far to get to, and this was a great opportunity to go and explore the country.
Yeah, good excuse, right?
Yeah, exactly. A perfect excuse.
That's awesome. Okay, so back to the actual accommodations. Now, did they have a spa or anything? Did you participate in anything luxurious while you were there? And is this where the wedding was?
This is where part of the wedding was. So traditional Indian weddings span multiple days. And this one happened to also span multiple cities and countries. So,
oh my gosh.
So wow. Part of it was in Colombo. There was another part down in Galle. There was another part in Marissa. Then there was another part back in India.
Wow.
So we span multiple locations. Yeah, but this is where it started.
That's amazing. Okay. So
the spa.
Yeah, did you do anything like that?
Yeah.
Like whatever the accommodations offer. Let's talk about the hotel.
Yep. So the hotel has a lovely spa. It's downstairs. So that was one of the first things I did when I got there, was go and find out what the hours were and what the options were
to relax.
So I opted for, and it's lovely. You go down and they have, this nice plush white couch, and they have the lovely spa music and, the pottery with the water kind of dripping. So you have this very soft, soothing environment. And then they have these lovely flowers. Because it's quite tropical, plumeria, those beautiful pink and white and kind of orange colored flowers, and they grow on trees and they grow everywhere. So you just have these lovely like plumeria flowers just cascading all around you all the time. And so they often put them in bowls of water all around the hotel. So they had a lot of them there, which is really lovely. And I opted for the Balinese massage. So they take you into the treatment room and they give you this lovely plush robe, and then they have you sit and they do this traditional kind of foot cleansing process where—
yeah, I've got a picture right here on the screen. Yeah.
Hotel. Yeah. And so they wash your feet, and it's like a very kind of calming, soothing start to the massage. And then, you get on the table, and the Balinese massage is like a very lovely, like long kind of stroke massage. So it's not about deep tissue, like getting in there and working knots out. It's like this very relaxing, peaceful. They use these lovely smelling oils, and they give a lovely, lovely massage. And then, afterwards you have some time to relax, and you can have some tea. And then I went back to the room and took a nap because it was such a lovely experience. But yeah, they have a nice spa, and they have really nice, masseuses and treatment rooms.
That's awesome. Yeah. While you were talking, I was scrolling through the photos of the foot massage, and I went on the website and pulled that up. So yeah. Okay, so you did that, and
Mhm.
then you talked a little bit about the dining and having the coconut. Is there anything else about the culinary experience that you'd like to highlight or anything?
The other thing I would highlight is they have lovely fresh juices and
Mm.
infused waters. So they actually had an infused water bar where they would infuse it with lime or coconut or basil. They had cinnamon infused water, watermelon infused water. So I every day I got a different infused water. And then they also have lovely fresh juices that they make every day because it's a tropical country. They have, papaya and star fruit and guava and watermelon and all kinds of lovely tropical fruits. And they literally just get the fruit, squeeze the juice out of it, and then you just have this wonderful selection of these fresh squeezed juices every day as well. So if you want to be healthy when you travel, this is a place it's very easy to be healthy. And also, I happen to be vegetarian. So if you're a luxury vegetarian traveler, sometimes it's hard to find, countries that don't focus on meat as kind of their main dish. And they do have meat there, but for a vegetarian, it was also very welcome because a lot of their dishes are naturally vegetarian. And then you can have meat added to it if you want. So I loved it. It was great.
That's awesome. I know there's a lot of people nowadays who are wanting to go plant-based diet, and travel is a part of that,
Mhm.
concern, like, because people go, what do you have that's, plant-based? They're like salad,
Yeah.
you know,
No,
so
they have a
having all the variety of plants that they
mhm.
can make. So that's great. So, what do you want to talk about experiences next? Like, what do you want to talk about next?
Yeah, sure. So we did a bunch of tours while we were there. And because it's, again, a tropical country, it's nice to be outside and kind of experience the outdoor space. So a lot of the tours we took were actually in traditional tuk-tuks, but they had made them, fancy. So the tuk-tuk that we had was a convertible. So the top came down on the tuk-tuk so we could see around. And they had, a cooler for us with water and coconuts and beer and just everything you could
How
imagine. They had
cute.
hand sanitizer for us, tissues for us, everything to make sure that you were comfortable. And they took us to local markets so we could try local foods and more local juices. And they have this little fruit that's kind of like a combination between an orange and a lime, and they make fresh squoze juice out of that, so we enjoyed that. And it was a lot of fun to explore around, and share the culture with the local people.
Yeah, when they really make you feel like you're so welcome, and that
Hmm.
they enjoy having you there,
Yep.
and that it's fun for them too. It's probably diverse, it
Hmm.
creates diversity in their day. So that's so cute.
Yeah.
That's so funny having a tuk-tuk, a convertible. I can
Yeah.
totally visualize
Convertible
that.
tuk-tuk. Yep.
That's fun. How far would you say that you traveled in a tuk-tuk? Because I know they're like an open air, environment. So, like, was it like a 2 or 3 or 4 hour trip, or what
Yeah,
did
it
you?
was, yeah, one was 3 hours and the other was 4 hours. Yeah, touring around.
That's so fun.
Hmm.
Okay, so let's see. You shared with me that you went to Marissa,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
so, what did you do there?
So Marissa is this beautiful beachside experience, and I'll share on the background. So here's Marissa. This
I
is
love
the
that you can change your pictures. That's great.
yeah. So the beach is gorgeous, and you can kind of tell part of it, there's like islands as well just right off the beach that are lush and tropical. So you're at the beach, you have these lovely tiki bars with fresh coconut, and a whole host of different beverages that you could want, but all the juices, like if you wanted a pina colada or if you wanted a strawberry daiquiri, it's actually the fresh fruit that they're using, not a mix. So as healthy as a drink could be, it was healthy. And then you're right on the water, so you have such a lovely breeze blowing. And if you're into surfing or, more of an adventurous side, they have surf camps there. They also do yoga on the beach for people who want to do yoga, or you can just walk along the beach or just enjoy, the food and drinks. And they have bars that are kind of along the edge. So when the sun sets, we sat in these bean bags on this bar that was kind of elevated on a little bit of a cliff, and we could watch the sunset as we were in bean bags, sipping on these lovely drinks. Yeah. And then the other thing Marissa is really well known for is whale, dolphin, and turtle watching and swimming. So a lot of, it wasn't known that whales migrated off the coast of Sri Lanka until fairly recently. And then once it was discovered, a lot of people got into that industry because the tourists wanted to see the whales. They wanted to swim with the whales, have that very amazing and unique experience. And there's actually a group that set safe standards for them. So if you wanted to go and experience this, and we know people who have gone 7 times to go whale watching off the coast of Marissa, and they said every time they've seen whales. Like, it's just
like guaranteed.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But there's a certain timing to go, right? So they'll tell you December to April is the best time to see them. But like, if you really want the absolute best opportunity for an encounter, it's between March and April. That's your best chance of seeing them. But it's important that you find a tour company that follows the Whale and Dolphin Conservation Society rules for engaging with them. And in Sri Lanka, the company with the best reputation is called Raja and the Whale. So they follow the rules, and because otherwise sometimes they chase the whales, scare the whales,
yeah,
right?
They're respectful. Yeah,
exactly. So to be respectful, so you can see them in their natural habitat, and you see them, come up and they, blow their little, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then when they generally, there's like a cadence to it. So generally they come up, they breathe about 3 times, and then they go straight down to feed. And when they go straight down, their tail goes straight up in the water. And those are those amazing scenes that you see, because that weight helps them go down faster. So it's an incredible experience to see.
And you did that? Y'all saw them? Or did you just?
We thought about it, but you have to get up at 5 a.m. to get on the boat by 6 a.m. And
we're here for a wedding.
But people that we were traveling with for the wedding did. They went and they said it was an amazing experience.
Okay, so while you were talking, I was thinking of other questions. Like, what month did you go to the?
We were there in March.
Okay, and what was the weather like during those months? Like, what was your hot temperature? And
so it's probably it'll get up into the 80s, and then the evening it'll cool down into maybe the low 70s, high 60s. So it's quite comfortable, maybe a little warm, but it's quite comfortable. And then March is generally the dry season, but they do have a little rain here and there. So I think we had 2 afternoons where it rained, but just for a few hours, and then it stopped. Yeah, but I mean, you're able to be outside pretty much.
Coming from Florida, you were used to that, right?
Yeah.
That was probably a little bit of a relief.
Yeah, it was completely used to it. Yeah.
That's awesome. So was there anything in Sri Lanka that you didn't do necessarily, kind of like the whales, but that you know about and you want the guests to know that there's other things to do, to consider?
Yep, definitely. So our experience was mostly on the coast, like a very small section of the coast of Sri Lanka. And one of the things we wanted to do was go into the interior, because there's some amazing experiences in the interior. One is there's this town called Kandy, and they have the Temple of the Buddha Tooth. And it's supposedly where one of Buddha's teeth is housed in this very ornate capsule with a kind of temple around it. And it's a lot of people go and see that. We tried to go see that, but the trains were sold out. So little tip, if you want to take a train, because the train journeys are exquisite as well. So they have specific train journeys that go through tea plantations, and it's absolutely gorgeous. But if you want to do that, you definitely have to book in advance. Like, we just showed up at the train station thinking we could buy tickets, but they won't sell foreigners tickets at the train station. You have to go through your hotel or a travel agent, because the train companies sell the tickets to them and then they sell them to the tourists.
Their guests, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So just know that you have to do it in advance, and you have to do it at your hotel or travel agency.
That's a great tip, because people are not going to know something like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then they also have, so in addition to the lovely train ride, the very scenic train ride, they also have an elephant orphanage. So they'll take the, elephants that have been injured or abandoned, or they've saved them from illegal logging activity where, they were working, and they now have them in these massive sanctuaries, like tons and tons of acres of land, and they have access to water. So you can go and you can watch them in their environment, and you can watch them bathe and play in the water and eat. So again,
be happy.
Yeah, exactly. Be happy. And it's, no ride, because riding elephants is very bad for them, very painful for them. So it's nothing like that. You can experience them in their natural environment doing normal elephant things. So that was one of the other things that we wanted to do. So we will have to go back at some point to be able to do that. And we think we're going to do a proper 2-week tour all around the amazing interior sites and the train journey to see the tea plantations.
So for such a small country, it was definitely a thumbs up to return. Sounds like.
Yeah, definitely. There's more to see. I mean, it's such a beautiful place, and the people you meet too are incredible. Like the local people that we met and the stories that they told us about, the country and the people that they've met it's a special place. It was lovely. I thought if I could ship my dogs out to me, I would have just stayed there.
That's so great. Oh my goodness. Well, is there anything else that you want to share about either the journey or an experience, or maybe another tip? Or is there anything that maybe you thought of that you want to, for people who haven't traveled to a country like that, like nowadays with cell phones, what do you do? Like, do you get a SIM card before you land, or do you go into the country and then go find a SIM card? Like, how do you manage with your phone?
So it's easier to do it in country. So what we did when we got to London, we switched our SIM cards, our American SIM cards, out for a British SIM card.
Oh.
Yeah, so we were able to use it in the UK, and the company, I think it's called Leica Mobile, and they have like over 100 countries in the world that their SIM card will work in.
That's amazing.
Yes, and they have it in a vending machine at the airport. So you just buy it. Yeah, it's super easy. You just, you need that little that little silver pokey thing to open your phone.
Push it out.
Yeah, so you just do that. Yeah.
You take your silver pokey thing.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a name for it.
In your carry-on. No, I know. It's like they call it like a key.
Yeah.
It's a key to open up your phone to get the SIM card out. It's a little hole in your phone. So how much does a SIM card in London in a vending machine cost somebody?
So it was £25, which is probably about $30.
Okay.
And you have unlimited calls and text. And I forget how much mobile, internet usage you had. But yeah, there was some amount. And then you could get a little bit more expensive one to have unlimited data coverage as well. But most of the places you go have Wi-Fi. So if you're in a hotel or a spa or the mall, they're all going to have Wi-Fi. So you just connect to the local Wi-Fi, and then it doesn't matter what SIM card you have. But if you're exploring, off the beaten track, like if you're at a local market or something, you won't have Wi-Fi. So that's when it's helpful to have that local SIM card, or if you can get access to an international one, like if you stop in London or if you stop in Dubai on the way there, just get an international SIM card at the airport. Yeah. And you pop it in, and it's super simple, and you can use your phone everywhere.
I know. I said that too, because it's funny. I don't know how old you are, but are you old enough to have traveled before before cell phones and the internet?
Yeah, I had my very first trip to Europe. I had a calling card, and I had, used the telephone, the landline at the hotel, and you have to enter, 15 digits from the calling card to be able to call home. You have to put money on it. Yeah. I remember.
You want to hear what we used to do? So I was born in 1968. I'm 54. But when I was 16, 17, I flew by myself from Houston to Munich. And then I had to get on a train by myself at 17 and go to Salzburg, where my sister was picking me up at the at the train station. And so once we would arrive in Europe, we would do something called call collect. So you would call the operator and say, I need to call this number, and say the call is from Poochie, which was our dog's name.
Yeah.
And so that was the code.
Yeah.
So that we didn't, it was just like, hey, we made it. everything is good. Don't
Yep.
take the call.
Yep.
Because it was so expensive. We would
Yep.
never. And so that was like our little joke, you know, the call from Poochie. No, we're not accepting that. It's like call from the jail cell. So anyway, nowadays, oh my gosh, like technology is so amazing. You're like, oh, I can get on Wi-Fi in the mall or wherever. Yeah. So anyway, well, I really appreciate you spending the time to talk with us today. Do you want to share did I miss anything that you wanted to talk about related to this?
I mean, I feel like I could talk about Sri Lanka a lot because it was such a beautiful, special place. And
well, yeah, I mean, maybe I didn't know a question to ask you. Like, is there something that I didn't ask about Sri Lanka that you should tell us? Because never been there, so I don't know what to ask.
No, I mean, I think the thing that stuck out for me for a lot of the people we met was the generosity that they had. So Sri Lanka had been through some difficult times. They had a civil war for a long time. Then they had, some economic troubles, and they're facing an inflationary period right now. But it's safe to go there. But the people were so generous of spirit, like they would spend the time to talk with you, to share stories with you, to explain what certain things were or the history of what they had gone through. Like one gentleman stands out. He lived in what's called Unawatuna, and they had a huge tsunami. And he was telling us that as the water came up and approached where he lived, they had never seen a tsunami before. So he didn't realize that it was a tsunami. He thought the island was sinking. Oh. Right? So he called to his daughters and wife and told them to run up the hill as high as they could. And then he tried to get what he could and, run up after them. So it was so interesting to hear that perspective. And then after the fact, they tried to help as many people as they could to get out of, a lot of people ended up being stuck in certain places or flooded, and, they helped them get out, helped them escape. And one of the couples that they helped was an American couple who actually sponsored him to come to America and share his story of what had happened and what he'd been through. And it really raised awareness around Sri Lanka and what they were going through, and helped get international aid to Sri Lanka to help them recover. And it was just, through generosity of spirit that he was trying to do the right thing. And it became something much bigger than himself. And he was able to raise awareness, to bring international funds in to help the country. So it's just, it's one of those things where I feel like the positivity of what you put out, you get back. And his story was just like a lovely example of that. So the generosity of spirit of the people, I just wanted to highlight as well, as quite, I think, unique and amazing in Sri Lanka.
Yeah. And then just when you're sharing that story, I'm thinking about the service to others, when you're not just thinking about yourself and getting yourself to higher ground, but you're helping those in need who can't maybe help themselves, who need the helping hand. And you risk your own life to go and help another. And then it turns out, that it works out well for all parties involved. I love stories like that too. So I'm all about, highlighting the people who are doing amazing things in the world. So thank you so much. I know you have a busy schedule. So
thank you for having me.
Yes. So you'll have to figure out where you want to share next, or what another venture sometime, and we'll have you come back. And
I'd love to hear from the audience too, if there's anywhere that they want to hear about. And I've been there. I'd be happy.
You've probably been there.
Yeah,
exactly.
Share about it.
What did you say? 20? No, that was just Europe. How many countries have you been to at this point?
So I actually did a little analysis on that.
Yes,
so
I want to hear it.
I've been to 55 countries in the world so far, and 35 of the states in America. So about 70% of the US I've seen, and 55 countries is actually only about 30% of the countries in the world. So I have a lot of work to do.
That's amazing. Golly, you are the epitome of a global travel junkie. So the podcast is created also for dreamers, people who maybe haven't to this point had the opportunity or the time, because you definitely have to have time to travel. So in particular, I traveled quite a bit between the age of like 14 till I was 35 or 37 or no, about 40. And then after that, I've had a gap because I had a dog, and I make that my excuse about not wanting to leave her. But my goal is in the next decade and a half is to knock it out and go visit all these places. So it's about a dream, you know, have a dream to travel and listen to a podcast like this where you can start learning from others who've been there. And we're going to also have the guests. Oh gosh, I get to say this on Monday. I get to interview the Ritz-Carlton Mapanda Reserve, which everyone gets to have their own temple when they stay there.
Wow.
And so I can't wait to interview one of the guest relations people. Yeah. And that's going to, after Chloe's episode loads, that's going to be my next episode that everybody can come back for.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear that.
I know, it's going to be exciting. Oh, and by the way, that's in Bali, Indonesia. I didn't say that, did I? So, so we're excited about that. So anyway, I want to invite anyone who wants to tell their story of travel, or if you're a business or a hotel, resort, or spa, or an experience. So I'm also interviewing and highlighting experiences. So if you have a neat experience that the world needs to know about, then reach out to me at globaltraveljunkie.com and just fill out the contact us form, and we'll look at getting you on as an episode. So thanks again, Chloe, for being here.
Thank you, Lydia.
I look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Definitely.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.